Okay, so sort of with our last 15 minutes, I would love to address the presentation of this apocalypse taking place towards like the middle to the latter half of Enoch, where it's describing like I should preface by saying for those who haven't read Enoch, there are some beautiful moments inside there where it talks about rewards that will be lavished upon those who are following the elect one, Jesus Christ. But by and large, the book is really a it's sort of the death knell for those who are going to live a life of sin, never come on home to redemption, and it really explains in sort of graphic detail what's going to happen to the watchers and those who are deceived.
Yeah.
Um, I I'd love to see what are your thoughts with when it's describing not just the watchers that did sin with human females being cast into the pit, but then we have this talk inside Enoch about Christ riding in with his elect. We see the same scene played out inside Revelation where he comes with a robe dipped in the blood of his enemies, and
Hmm.
they essentially lay
Yep.
siege to the cities of men.
Yep.
Uh, that in conjunction with Revelation 9, where we have the king reigning over the locust in the abyss. We have
Yep.
Apollyon or Abaddon,
Yep.
and they come out. It's and we have this humongous power encounter on
Hmm.
the earth. Where does Enoch line up with the Bible in that event?
Well, Enoch lines up well with end time prophecy. So one of the issues, though, with the book of Enoch is it seems to have had additions to it, which are seem to be almost sort of added in from sort of New Testament, from the age of things. So, but it does add, it does follow prophecy quite closely. So whether it's true ancient prophecy or more of the, let's say, 200 AD version of the addition into it. Hard to know, but it does line up very, very well, just as the line mentioning in the book of Jude about Enoch matches up almost word for word in the book of Enoch.
Mhm.
So we know there was an original Hebrew manuscript. What we don't know is how much has been added to it. And
Okay.
there's theories of how many different writers there were for this. And so, but some of it is going to be for sure that comes out of what they think is part of the lost hagiography that we're talking about, like from the Toledoth of Adam and the Toledoth of Noah, and some of those versions which make up what we look as the older part of Enoch. The prophetic side, we're not. It's really hard to know because Enoch lived before the flood.
Mhm.
So, and it's talking about in some places in the book of Enoch about the tribe of Dan in Bashan. Well,
Mhm.
that's like an after writing in terms of how that's put in. So
Interesting.
there's some additions. So we have to be careful. And in a document I have on the book of Enoch, I actually have some of the corruptions that you want to be aware of, even though I like it a lot. It runs 99%. One of those obvious corruptions is it has the angels making the ark for Noah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's polytheist version, right? So there's
Yeah.
corruption in there. But again, we don't have that complete Hebrew manuscript. It's got Enoch 500 years old twice. Well, Enoch was
Interesting.
taken to heaven at 365.
Mhm. Well, another thing I noticed inside the book of Enoch too was, you don't have talk inside there of, like, a being forgiven of sins, sort of a once and for all type of thing. There's a number of moments where it really seems like your entrance into eternity is really contingent on the works that you do, and we
Yeah,
know according to the Bible that's not the case.
yeah. So, and yeah, and so we just want to be careful. So even with the book of Enoch, where it doesn't line up perfectly with the Bible, can't use it. But there's a lot in there that I think is because I do like it a lot. So we want to be a little bit careful with it. So one of the things that you don't really see in the book of Enoch is the lake of fire.
Yes, it talks about, like, a hot place, and it talks about like a furnace type place, but
Yeah.
you don't see the lake of fire.
Yeah. In the book of Enoch, they're only talking about the pit prison. They're talking about a place of fire and ice where the watchers are going to.
Interesting.
And the pit is in Sheol, in Hades, but in a specific place and probably in another dimension. The lake of fire is somewhere else. And that's because I don't think that it was wanted to be made known to the angels at that point in time about the lake of fire. We really learn about the lake of fire, other than some references to maybe fire in the Old Testament, in the New Testament
Mhm.
with the lake of fire. And in Matthew 25, we're told that the devil and his angels are going to go to that lake of fire, and that the people who take the mark of the beast are going to go to that lake of fire. One would presume many of the Rephaim and the Nephilim are going to go to the lake of fire, unless they chose God and followed Jesus at some point in time. So um, and the lake of fire is also the place of the second death. So there's specific people that aren't going to die in that lake of fire, and there's people that will die in that fire.
Mm.
So the lake of fire, it's another thing that's poorly translated in the Old and the New Testament, is they conflate hell into one concept that's actually three different places.
I
You have,
noticed also that, and this is unfortunately this really became mainstream Christian belief in the wake and really heavily proliferated by the Catholic Church, that they believe Satan reigns in hell, as
Mhm.
though hell
Yeah,
and all its red delights are being carried out by him and his minions, which
yeah.
is not the case.
No, he reigns on
And
earth,
yeah, because he is the prince of the
prince
power
of
of
this
the air.
world. Yeah,
And I like that Enoch does not feed into that misunderstanding
yeah.
that, oh, Satan is somehow like king of this underground area. We have
Now,
our nine rings
will
of hell and
if
whatnot.
you want to look at it prophetically, he will be the king of the lake of fire, but
Oh
he's
yeah.
there forever with
There
other
we go.
people that he can reign over, who are all being punished there as well. But that's not today.
Man,
And
that's
first he's got to go to the abyss for 1,000 years, and then to the lake of fire.
boy, that's gonna chafe. Spending eternity in a prison where you put 90% of the inmates there yourself.
Yeah,
Goodness. Wow. So, sort of we'll start to wrap it up here. We got about 8 minutes left. But for those who are wondering, okay, we've talked about Enoch, we've talked about the watchers, the angels, we've talked about these different classes of angels, these different classes of beasts. If you're wondering what does it matter to know this information, um, a a big reason, at least from what I've been able to deduce in my own study, there's sort of a twofold reason in why it's helpful to know this information, know who the Nephilim were, know who the Watchers were, what they did, and what their sin meant for mankind. Is number one, if you look at it from an apologetic standpoint, it gives you a reason for the wartime violence inside the Bible. Anytime you don't see Israel, that's when they're having either a civil war amongst their own tribes or they're fighting with the progeny of Lot, they are fighting these Nephilim and Rephaim tribes. So it gives a reason, as Peter would say, for the hope that is in you,
yeah.
to be able to explain to somebody
Sure.
that
And
violence.
understanding that the Nephilim and all of those tribes swore in an oath, as the book of Psalms talks about, to conspire to wipe Israel from the face of the earth, to be remembered no more.
Hmm. And I love that. Because yeah, he like even God says that he's going to blot out the name of the Amorites from
Yeah.
completely off the earth. And like now I'm
Amalekites.
picturing more hornet activity in my mind here.
Yeah.
But the other part of why it's pertinent to understand this information is that knowing the basis of this, understanding what the Genesis 6 conspiracy was all about, what that event was, it gives you an understanding of just how important it is to recognize your pedigree within the kingdom. You're not born of angels. You're born of God, and he put his spirit inside of you, recognizing that their entire aim from beginning to end was to corrupt the bloodline so dramatically that God couldn't even look at his people on earth that he created as human anymore, and would make us damned creations
Hmm.
for all time. Like it's a very heavy thing to have to sit with. And then when you look at what will happen as Jesus describes the end times being as the days of Noah, this resurgent of these Nephilim and Rephaim genes through humanity again. It's all done in an effort to
Yep.
change you from being his
Yep.
elect.
Yep. And to not be raised into immortality, to be like angels. That's the whole plan. And the Amalekites is a perfect sort of post-Diluvian story. And so they were wanting to wipe Israel from the face of the earth, and they led other people into it. That's why you have the Psalms referencing the nations that were conspiring to do that. And it was greater than that, because the Amalekites were doing it for a reason, just as the Midianites were. So, the Midianites, for example, derived from Abraham, and through a concubine of Abraham.
Mhm.
So they have an inheritance right if Israel's not
Mm.
there. So they're going to be part of it. But the Amalekites even have a stronger inheritance claim if Israel is not there. So the Amalekites are born from Eliphaz and Timnah. Timnah is a Horim. Eliphaz is the son of Esau. Esau is the brother of Jacob. Jacob took the blessings of the Messianic blessing, the birthrights, and the three sets of major promises for Jacob, and that changed his name to Israel and begets the Israelites to bring about the
Mhm.
Messiah. If the Amalekites, with this Sion Rephaim bloodline, because Timnah is a Horim,
Mhm.
as it's accounted for in Genesis 36, and a new dynasty with a purebred fairy queen,
Mhm.
and the dukes were Alephs, where you get the elven elf allegory that goes with that Genesis 36 side of the bloodline of the giants that are trying to get a hold of the birthrights through the Amalekites, that they're going to
Sure.
replace Israel completely and supersede and take the Messianic blessing to produce their dragon Messiah. There was so much at play there with the Amalekites, why they had a transgenerational blood oath to wipe them from the face of the earth. So you have Agag, who is the uh, patronymic king title of the Amalekites in the time of the Exodus. You have another Agag in the time of King Saul,
Shoot,
who
you do, the one that old Samuel
yeah.
hacks to pieces.
Yeah, and Saul violates his claims to the monarchy because he doesn't carry it out, because these are the people that want to wipe Israel from the face of the earth. It's a blood oath. It's
Mm.
transgenerational. Then you have Haman the Agagite. An Agagite is synonymous with Agag and an Amalekite who's sitting at the highest royal court of the Persian Empire, who wants to wipe Israel, Judah, the southern kingdom that's left, from the face of the earth in that time.
Man, these guys are really one note, aren't they? Goodness.
Yeah,
And I
it
love that he gets skewered down on that pike. That is just
yeah. So
fantastic.
it starts to, when you start to connect the dots on some of the things, it starts to explain things, and it brings the Old Testament to life, and it starts to help you decode what's going to happen in the end time, because nothing is new under the sun. What was will be again. It happens over and over and over. So just as Satan originally stormed heaven to try and put his throne in heaven and to be like God, Antichrist and Satan will do that again in the end time.